Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Backbone Podcast, where common sense still makes sense in a world that is sick and only getting sicker. And now we have the aftermath of the Fuentes Piers Morgan interview that happened a couple of days ago, and it's absolute destruction for Piers Morgan. Piers made a tremendous error in judgment by interviewing Fuentes, and the reason why is Piers's media savvy is just outdated. It's over. Those days are done for. The gotcha questions and the putting you on the spot. About back in the day, there was a journalist named Tim Russert, and he was the host of a show on NBC called Meet the Press, and he would interview mostly politicians, and he would ask politicians something called a trap question. He would ask them a question about how they feel about whatever topic of the political time it was, and that politician would, of course, lie about how they feel about the topic. And then Russert would say, "Oh, that's interesting, but you didn't seem to feel that way back then," and show a clip of that politician saying the exact opposite of what he just said on live TV. And it would humiliate the politician. It would most likely destroy them, destroy their credibility if they ever had any. And the double talk and the lies and the political spin would usually kill these guys, because that's what we would like to see. We'd like to see them reeling from these terrible questions and from their exposure, from them being exposed. That doesn't work today, and it doesn't work today, especially with guys like Nick Fuentes, because when Piers Morgan would ask, "Are you a racist?" If he would to say that, if he would have asked that question to a politician, uh, whoever, they would say, "Well, of course not. I'm not racist. I mean," and then Piers would shock them with the clip from 30 years ago. But with Fuentes, it didn't work, because he would try to get him with these trap gotcha questions. And Fuentes would say, "Yeah, I'm racist. Of course I am. Yeah, I'm homophobic. Yeah, I think that women should stay in the kitchen. No, women shouldn't vote. Yeah, blacks belong in jail. Yeah, this blah, 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 blah." He came out and he basically said what was on his mind. He was unapologetic to it. And Morgan was absolutely powerless and stunned. If you saw the interview in its entirety, or some of the clips that I showed you, Piers Morgan was staring at the camera like a deer in headlights. He had nowhere to go. And of course, what liberals do and what media people do is they try to data you to death, and they try to give you all this data, 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 data. And that's where they've lost the younger generation, because the younger generation, as I said last night, the younger generation have social media, and they have the cell phone cameras, and they have the live footage, and they see what's happening. They see what's happening in their own towns, in their own countries, in their own cities, in their own schools, at their own workplaces, at their local fucking McDonald's. They see what's happening. You cannot hide it anymore. You can't say, "Well, white people are just commit just as much crime as blacks." No, it's stupid. It's silly to say these things now. You look like a moron. And there's a reason why people in the mainstream should stay far away from anyone like Nick Fuentes, and there aren't many guys like Nick Fuentes. You do have some people who are coming up now. Lily Gaddis is one of them, and I've been paying attention to her to see if she's still on YouTube, because I believe that she was demonetized recently, and she was saying that she might be off the air. She did create another channel, so go check that out for her and support her all you could. There's another young lady, Isabella Moody, who's on Instagram a lot. She says her thing. She does her piece. There's what's the name of that guy? Woman Propaganda, I think. He's like this dude with a mustache. There's Paul Miller. It's a growing, unapologetic younger legion of social media, I guess you can call them influencers, that are gaining traction by the minute, by the post. And there's nothing that social media or there's nothing that mainstream media can do about it. They're powerless to do anything about it because no one's looking at getting their news or their opinions or their influence from guys like the usual suspects, Bill O'Reilly, Glenn Beck, Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro. Those days are over now. And this Generation Z, which is going to be a tsunami of voters coming up, is now disenchanted with the old ways of doing things. They're disenchanted with politicians saying Israel first or I support Israel. You're going to lose their vote. The minute a guy like Ted Cruz says I support Israel with all my heart, those Gen Z kids are not going to vote for you. So the politicians are going to have to do one or two things. They're either going to have to go down and die on a hill with that stance and keep accepting the AIPAC money, or they're going to have to adapt and adjust. Because there's no point in getting AIPAC money if you're out of office, because then that AIPAC money stops. So either way, you're not going to get that money anymore. Here's a clip last night of Fuentes' reaction to his interview with Morgan. And listen, as Nick says, the truth will set you free.
I think the biggest moment came when he said very early on, he said, so you're racist. Are you racist? And I said, yes, I am racist. Sure, I accept it. Call me a racist. And throughout the interview, I think once that happened, it was over. Because the entire purpose of the interview is to basically say the rhetoric on your show is racist. Do you know that? The rhetoric on your show is misogynistic. Do you know that? Do you deny that? And once I accepted it and said, yes, I'm racist, I'm misogynistic. Now what? Okay, I'm racist. I don't care. I'm not ashamed. I won't even deny it. Now what? Now what do you have to say? Okay, congratulations. You did it. He said on Twitter before, he said, we're going to give a proper examination of his views. And I knew what that meant. I knew what was coming. He said, you're racist, aren't you? Admit it. I'm like, yeah, I am. I am. Now what? And what about that? Now what? And he had nothing. And throughout the interview, he's restating it in new ways, restating it in novel ways over and over. But you see, you said you're racist earlier, but you see, you've conceded you're racist. Does the audience know, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, he is racist? And I said, congratulations. Congratulations, you've succeeded. Yes. And I don't know why you're so proud of yourself. I don't know why you're patting yourself on the back. This is something I've said on my show. It's something I've said in interviews. I said it to Candace Owens' face right before I explained human biodiversity, right before I explained race and IQ. I told her, yes, I'm racist. I said, I used to say I'm racialist. Now I just say I'm racist. I don't care. I said, so I don't know why you're patting yourself on the back. And once I said that, it was over. Because he had nothing. There was no moral high ground. He couldn't shame me. And there was nothing substantive to say other than to point and sputter, you're a racist, you're misogynistic. And there's a lesson in this, which is that these words and these labels, and more than that, the shame, it only has as much power over you as you give it. Now, I understand that for normal people, there's a little more to the story, because if you get called a racist, you could lose your job. You could be expelled from school. Your wife or your girlfriend might leave you. Your family might disown you. So for other people, there are complications. But for people like myself, and I consider myself an opinion maker, a tastemaker, a public intellectual, an influencer, whatever you want to say. I'm an ideas person. My job is in the realm of ideas. I don't have a regular employer. For someone like myself to say, that word doesn't have power over me, I don't care. You can call me that. Once that happens, it's like a spell is broken.
And that's very true. Once those labels lose their power, they're just stupid words. They're just stupid accusations. That's it. You can't do anything about it anymore. And what Morgan has done is help expose that these labels are meaningless. And he's become powerless because of it. And mainstream media has, because that's all they have is they label you. You're a racist, you're a misogynist, you're a homophobe, blah, 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 blah. But the one thing that they never call you, the one thing that they never say that or can prove is that they can never call you or prove that you're a liar. How come Piers Morgan at no time during that 3 fucking hour marathon ever caught Nick Fuentes lying? He couldn't do it. They came out with data and he had a whole fucking team of people. And let me tell you, I worked in media. These shows like Piers Morgan's show and when Bill O'Reilly had the Factor on Fox, Glenn Beck at the Blaze, they have about 30 or 40 people that work and investigate everything about you down to your fucking pubic hair records. They know everything about you. So if they can't get you trapped in a lie, what do you got? Well, then the only thing you have is labels and mocking and trying to use, the Alinsky rules for radicals, and it doesn't work anymore. The rules for radicals only works if you give a shit about those labels. If you call somebody an anti-Semite and they nod their head, unapologetically, boom, that's it. It's over. You have to go to something else. And Fuentes is unapologetic of it, and and it's growing. You see, I told you that after the Charlie Kirk assassination, that you wouldn't see an army or a growth of more Charlie Kirks. No, that's past. The milquetoast, evangelical Protestant Republican it's dead. It went with Charlie. The new wave and the wave of the future seems to be what Nick Fuentes is doing, because these young people, these young white Christian people, mostly white Christian heterosexual males, resonate to his message. They don't want to hear from a guy like my age. Well, I'm a Gen Xer, but I might be even too old. They want to hear from young people in their mid to late 20s who they can relate to, who they can finally have somebody who is their voice and kind of understands what they're going through, what they went through in school, how they had teachers talk about how terrible white culture is, or there's no such thing as white culture, and all this other bullshit. Western civilization's horrible, and the blacks invented everything, and blah 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 blah. All that nonsense, it beats you down and almost makes you ashamed to be who you are. And there are some very brave young people who are like, fuck that. I know who my family is, my ancestors are, and I'm proud of it. And there's nothing you can do to stop that. If you have a strong foundation, and if you're Christian, if you have a strong Christian foundation, that's all you need. Forget about the other denominations. And I'm not saying you have to be Catholic, but I'm just saying if you have a strong Christian, unapologetic belief and love for God, that's all you fucking need. These other people could say whatever they want. And what Piers Morgan has done is he's made the classic mistake of being an old guy trying to use new tricks. And he's going on social media and he's railing and going off, trying to prove what a bad person Nick Fuentes is, and it's only showing his defeat. The other issue, the other humiliation for Piers Morgan is the fact that his wife, his fucking wife, is coming, has all these pictures of herself with other men. Now we're gonna Fuentes commented about this last night, but Piers Morgan mocked Nick Fuentes about being a virgin and being chaste and being this and being that. Meanwhile, Piers Morgan's wife is going on 6-week sabbaticals from their marriage. She's taking pictures with men from all over the place. She has pictures of black guys washing her car and in their underwear. Piers, what are you doing, dude? Your wife is humiliating yourself in front of God, in front of your family. Piers Morgan is the ultimate cuck, and he has the temerity to try and mock Nick Fuentes for being a virgin and for waiting till marriage to lose his virginity. You know, that's something to be celebrated. Listen, I am no angel. I'm one of the world's greatest sinners. I have done terrible things with women. It's just who I am. I'm not strong enough. If people, and especially women, had the same attitude Fuentes had at his age, my God, would the world be a better place? You wouldn't have 20-year-old girls having hoe season or whatever they call it, or jumping around from guy to guy and having 2-3 kids from different men by the time they're 27, 28 years old. That is cool. Being the slut now is cool. Being the chaste individual who's waiting for that one person to spend the rest of their life with, that's stupid. You got issues, bro. It's just ridiculous. Here's Nick Fuentes commenting on what's her name? I forget her name. Her name is Jesus Christ. Celia Walden. That's her name. I'm sure her parents and children are very proud of her. Here's Nick on Celia.
Know that Piers Morgan was such a cuck. That explains everything. Since the Piers Morgan interview, we found his wife's Instagram. It's the most humiliating thing I've ever seen. Piers Morgan's wife, I kid you not, she's on Instagram repeatedly posting with other men and insinuating that she's having sex with them. Wurzelroot posted it on Twitter. She says something like, when my husband is away, Mr. Suds comes out to play. And it's a picture of a giant black guy in a Speedo washing her car. There's another one. She's taking a picture pointing at a guy's dick and implying she's going to suck the guy's dick. That's two. That's two of the There's a news story that said she went on a 6-week sabbatical from her marriage with Piers to go have sex with other men. He joins her on a talk show on television with rubber gloves saying, honey, I just finished my chores. I love powerful women. I should have done my research. I didn't even think to do that because I'm not that guy. He asked me to come and do the show. I did it. But this is a guy that's attacking me for being an incel. This is the guy that's telling me, well, you're just a dinosaur, huh? Okay, what are you, buddy? What are you, a cuck? I mean, I had his number. I said, it's Chads and incels that know what women are. It's beta male orbiters like you that don't seem to get it. He's on his second marriage. He's getting cucked by his wife. It's insane. No wonder. So typical. Some big, fat, old white guy who's a total pussy-worshipping simp, and his wife is out there publicly humiliating him. in front of God and everybody in the whole world. And he's going to go on TV and give me his position on women. Who would be listening to you? Do you think any man wants to be in your position? Absolutely not. Do you think young men would take advice from you about women? Why? So we could be humiliated? Are you kidding me? People would rather be a 27-year-old virgin than be 60 years old on your second marriage, getting ritualistically humiliated by your wife, talking about cheating on you with every and any man that she meets. Obviously. That's why the young people are finished, because we look at the boomers and say, fuck that. And I can't speak from experience because this is not the case with my parents, but I know for a fact a lot of the young men resent the older generation because this is the structure. All of the young men, their dads are all weak. You know, my dad is a tough guy. He was like a street tough in the old days, and he's ethnic. You know, he's Mexican. He's half Mexican. His dad was like a drug addict. Okay, he's from the streets. He's an OG. It is the story of most of these Gen Z guys, and even Gen Alpha now too. Their parents are Gen Xers, millennials, and they're total pussies. And where a lot of the resentment comes from is the young men look at their dads as these like weak, emasculated, soft-spoken. They're not men. And they see the way their mothers walk all over their dad. And that's where the resentment comes from.
And he's totally 100% correct. 100% correct. I know guys who have been married. Listen, I've been divorced. December 1st was my 10th blissful year of divorce because I wouldn't take the shit anymore. It was my way or the highway, and she chose the highway. Good for her. But I know guys who have been married 20 years, 25 years, who are fucking miserable. And their wives go on vacation with other girls. They go to the Keys, they go Vegas, they go here, they go there. While these guys stay home, go to work and watch the kids or maintain the house. What the fuck? How are your children supposed to look at you, especially if you have daughters? Your daughters think that that's normal behavior for a woman. Your sons, they're going to resent you. They're either going to do what Piers Morgan's sons are, turn into pussies like Piers Morgan and let women run all over them, or they're going to resent you. This is this is the great divide that these men today, these older men, between 40 and 60, excluding yours truly, of course, don't know how to live in peace without women. They just can't do it. They have to have a woman around. They see it as defeat. Some of these guys I know, they won't leave their wives because they have a pension. They don't want to lose half their pension, which is absurd to me. You'd rather live in misery and die at 67 than lose fucking half your pension. And this is why these young Gen Zers and these Gen Alphas now, they're starting to wake up. My dad is weak. My dad is fearful. Men are fearful. White men are guilt-ridden. This, and that. And that's not going to be me. I'm not going to live this way. It always takes one generation to change how everything operates. In this Western civilization world that we are in now, it's two. We're seeing a fundamental shift in just belief and thinking. That is an incredible revelation. Now, here is the picture that Fuentes is talking about. This is a black dude in a Speedo washing Celia Warden's car. If you can't, Celia Walden's car. And this is her Instagram account. And the post reads, "When the husband's away, Mr. Suds comes and plays. Hashtag you missed a spot. Hashtag everyday sexism. Hashtag not an object. Hashtag butt as an ass want to be. Hashtag Speedo, hashtag Hollywood Life, hashtag Hawaiian Tropic. That's your wife, Piers Morgan. That's your life, if you want to call it that. Shame on you for being a fruitcake cuck. Shame on your father for not raising a real man. Shame on your sons for allowing this. But you're British, so there's no such thing as masculine British men. Just look at what's happening in England today. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of Nick Fuentes on mainstream interviews anymore. Has he done a Joe Rogan? I don't know if he's done Joe Rogan. I think that's the only one left. I don't know if Rogan would interview him. He probably would. But you're not going to see him being interviewed by Whitlocks or the Glenn Becks or anybody else, because they're going to be terrified of him because he never misses. Every interview he's done, he's knocked it out of the ballpark. He's just better prepared. And dare I say, he's just smarter than them all. And he tells the truth when all these other guys live bullshit lies. Megyn Kelly can't interview him. Jason Whitlock can't interview him. Whitlock has said he wants to, but okay, so invite him on. He'll do it. But Whitlock works for the Blaze, and the Blaze is owned by Glenn Beck, and Glenn Beck is an Israeli sympathizer. They're compromised, whereas Fuentes is not. And when you're not compromised, you're invincible. That's what it means to have a backbone. Don't be compromised by women. Don't be compromised by ideology. Don't be compromised by society. Be your own man. There's a lot of you out there. There's more than you know. You'll find them, or they'll find you. You'll grow together. You'll become stronger together. This is strength. And if you play your cards right, you'll be able to win back Western civilization in a big way, in a very big way. And there's my 2 cents. Thanks again for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Remember, my friend, Satan is always busy. Be a man, have a backbone, because masculinity and common sense are worth standing up for. And just remember, if it ends in an ism, it's a mental disorder. Piers just proved that. We'll see you later.